Dun, 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 dun.
Good afternoon.
Hi, y'all. Hi, y'all.
We're all so tired. Good morning, good afternoon.
Good morning.
World.
Yep. Yeah. I am pretty tired. There it goes again, Sam.
Yeah, Facebook's being stupid.
Are you going to sort it or should I? I think she's going to sort it.
Joys of technology.
Yeah. Hey, guys. What is up? Are we back on Facebook yet?
We're on Facebook.
It's not showing me.
I see it here. Let me adjust it. You guys work on something else.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
hello everybody. I am Chibi Raincloud. It's been a while, but I'm on. I'm very excited. I have a chill day today. I'm gonna do nothing but game, and I'm so excited.
Yay!
But yeah, no, I'm the Pacific Northwest cosplayer. I do a little bit of everything, including workshops, competitions, judging, the whole gambit of cosplay. I'm actually this episode I'm kind of interested in because like I feel like I don't have a lot of boothing experience, so I want to hear other people's conversations about this. So that's why I'm here. I'm like, ooh, maybe I can learn something. And I'm cosplaying Hung Cha. Chang from Heaven Official Blessing because I am a total nerd and you can tell that I'm just stuck in the Donmei world and I'm never coming out probably. I had an epiphany this morning that I'm like, wait, I have everything I need to be the demon daddy. So I was like, I got to do it. So yes, here we are.
Daddy.
I wasn't expecting today, but I've fallen too deep.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, again, I am not in cosplay. I apologize. I still have like my apartment is still like in shambles behind me. So one day, I promise I'll be back in cosplays. I am Jigs Cosplay. I've been cosplaying since 2001, based in Phoenix, Gilbert area of Arizona. And I am wearing my Mercy shirt. I haven't been gaming a lot either because I'm doing things around my apartment. So, but yeah, I haven't been on gaming much lately, but Overwatch, I don't know if we're talking about what we game because you said you were going to game today. So yeah, we just wrapped up Tucson Comic Con about 2 weeks ago, and now I'm knee deep in the next event that we're planning. Super excited about that. So that's going to definitely, we're definitely going to talk about our setup last year at UwuCon. So if you guys are not familiar with UwuCon, it is a pop culture event that happens in East Mesa, Arizona, and it's in its second year now. I organize the cosplay groups. Sam does programming. We do the cosplay contest. So we'll be talking about that a lot as well. Hey, Raul, thanks for checking in. I'm glad we can get it back up onto Facebook. How you doing over there, Sam?
Doing good. Facebook's fixed, so we're all good there. I don't know. I might just honestly, this little thing's annoying me. Hi guys, it's Thermo Cosplay here, wearing a crazy outfit. But, this is actually a Chowby original design. If you're not familiar with Chowby, check it out on Meet Costumes.
Whoa! Sam's a family show.
Whoa!
Sam's decked out
in
keeps
getting hot on the wheel of my chair, and I don't want it to get ripped off. So I was like, let's not have it ripped off. Let's not have it on the wheel of the chair. So
no, you look great. Awesome. Okay, you did your
I'll
intro.
Just put my little loose tie on, police officer, a little bit off duty. This just feels like, I don't know. It's an inappropriate, like, it feels like an undead police officer, like, get back in the underworld.
You look great. I totally, when Sam showed up in the room like this, I was like, whoa!
I think I had the exact same reaction.
Yeah, I was like, dang! I love it. I think you need to wear pleather more often. No, I'm just kidding.
It's really hot, though. I'm freaking... Yeah. I usually can handle heat. I'm so sweating right now.
I'm surprised. I don't think I've ever...
I love cosplaying from Donmei, but it's like 5 layers. Like, I'm not kidding. I have like an undershirt and then like this shirt and then I have the hanfu. And it's just like,
wow.
It's a little chilly today, but like I genuinely feel warm.
What's chilly? What is it up? What's the temperature up there?
I think it was like, let me look.
I think we are at, here in Phoenix area, we are at 98. 98 degrees.
It's kind of bouncing between things. Like right now it's 66, but like this morning, this morning it was like probably closer to like 50, high 40s when I first woke up. So
wow, our low today is what is it? Our low today is 75. 98
our
feels
high
great,
today
though.
is 73. So
oh man, but a 98 sounds amazing. So yeah, again, if you're watching us from anywhere other than the Pacific Northwest or Arizona, this is how drastically different we have to deal with our cosplays. Because I would
my
definitely
temperature in Celsius is about 18 for our other viewers, and then for you guys it would be, what did you say it was, 75?
No, 98. It would be about like 30
something.
It'd be like 30 something or 32, wouldn't it? I'll do the calculations for Celsius to
I dated Canadian, so I should know this by heart, but like I have a calculator on my phone just because I'm like, what temperature is this?
I lived overseas for 6 years and I still can't remember. It's like time divided by 2.5, I think.
Yeah,
something like that.
Calculators.
So right now it's supposed to be what, 98?
39.
It's 36 degrees Celsius.
Okay, that makes more sense.
That's insane. No, I'm like, it's comfortable today. Like September is like peak Washington weather. Like it starts off a little chilly in the mornings and the evenings, but afternoon is like the perfect temperature to do anything. So September is my favorite time to do anything, because it's like, this is peak weather. It's a little warm, it's a little cool. If you get the right day, like the sun and the clouds are just right for photography.
Yeah.
Well,
too hot.
Let's see here. The last like month and a half, it's been like 46 to 48 degrees Celsius here. So that's about 115 to 118.
Oh my God, I would die.
Like it started cooling down a little bit and then it got hot again. And actually I went out last night, like even at night, it could be really hot, but it was
it's finally hit the cooling stage at night. The average temperature at night is like 67, 72 degrees. So that'd be much lower. It'd be closer to like the 20s in Celsius or low 30s.
Yeah.
Hi, Sakura. Really nice. Yes, I agree. That's too hot. No, I can't. Like, I like Washington. It's fairly mild compared to the rest of the world.
Yeah, we do live in quite an extreme part of the country. And we cosplay like. I would not be able to wear what Sam's wearing until like December, because I would just be like dripping in sweat. All right, so we have very well gone off a nice tangent here. Let's go back to the topic, and that's my fault. Our topic today is convention booth setups and designs. And this is especially important because for this year at UbuCon, I'm working with cosplay groups, and I'm actually asking them to bring something different with their booths. And some people have never done a booth. Some groups have never done a booth, or they only perform, or they only do meetups. So I'm actually working with them on what their design is, and what they can bring, the different sizes of our booths, and if they need more.
The first caveat we should say is well, this may be a Southern thing. You guys handle Ubu's been handling the cosplay guests, I feel, very differently, because like you guys have like 30 something cosplay guests. Which is like unheard of. Like Washington State, like max like 4 or 5. Like in our area, we only have a handful of cosplay guests that are ever announced. Sometimes the judges and the cosplay guests are different people in our area. So like for me, when Ubu was like started announcing all their guests, I'm just like, is it going to stop? Like how many are there?
No, like, and that's the thing too, is they're really big about uplifting the community and involving the community. I mean, that's how you grow people around you. Yeah, it's awesome. And the cosplay charity groups, which is what Jess is working with, and just the cosplay groups themselves that don't always have charities too, a lot of them are massive. Like the New Arizona Republic that I'm a part of, which is like a Fallout based costume and prop group, but they open it up to anybody in cosplay. They have a booth that's typically, when like at Tucson Comic-Con, it's like what I'd say, Jess, it's like a 50 by 20.
Theirs was smaller this year, but last year I remember it being bigger.
Yeah, well, they had to change the space a little bit, but I'd still say it's like really big. I mean, it takes up an entire, at least 40 feet of wall space, and it comes out about 15, 20 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's crazy fascinating, because like in Washington, we don't have a lot of like volunteer groups. I think the only two that are like by name here is we have the Guild, which is a cosplay like workshop, like kind of like a learner's guild, a workshop style volunteer group. And then we also have kind of like a Disney superheroes group as well. I don't know what their name is, but like those are the only two like well-known groups that are that large in my area. So we have like a lot of smaller, just like offshoot cosplayers that are just like they're single entity.
I'd love to see more like genre-based cosplay groups. I don't know why there's not like a Final Fantasy group. But there's so far we've got like, you know, as far as like cosplay groups, we have like there's Ghostbusters groups, Power Rangers group, Transformers, even Resident Evil, like based on one game, Halo. So, you know, based on one game alone. And there's, of course, a lot of different superheroes. There's AZ Avengers, Justice League, and then there's the charity groups like Put on a Cape and Comic Care, Super Ladies Foundation. And then we have tons of like princess groups, right? Like, well, there's some that are actual companies too that do both, right? So there's like Beyond the Page and like Timeless Entertainment and all these other groups that, I mean, I'd love to have more, but the thing that we lack here, I think, are like anime-based groups, right? So, I mean, we have Team Rocket AZ, and then, you know, I'm trying to get another group up.
That's so cute.
And but there's not like a Sailor Moon group or, you know, magical group. I don't know. I wish there was more anime groups because there's a lot of video game and a lot of, you know, other kinds of. There's like there's a
because our groups are all like more like a mesh of things. Because there's also in Canada there's the Skill Tree, which I know is another like more like a volunteer group. And so we have a lot of that, and we have like meetups, but nothing that's considerably official, I think.
And I mean, they do meetups. There's some groups that will just do like panels, or they just do like, you know, the meetups and stuff like that. Sorry.
No, so I feel like it got a little off topic. I was just really like
I'm opening a bunch of pictures on tables I've helped set up and other people while you guys are talking.
Yeah. I have a table too. I can Sam, would you like me to send you my table, or do you want me to just share it?
Yeah, no, I mean we can roll around and have people share different things, but I figured we could talk about like let's start with like the basic of like you know, what happens if you get invited for the first time. Like never, I always advise people, you never know when you get invited for the first time just how much of a good or positive or negative response your items are going to have. So don't overinvest. In my opinion, never spend more than $100 the first time and stuff that you're going to sell. And in decorations, I always encourage people to go to like dollar stores, thrift stores, consignment stores to find decorations the first time, just as an initial setup. The only thing that you might want to spend some money on is like maybe a smaller vinyl banner or some really nice printed out posters of your particular brand. But when you're starting small, don't invest too much because it can be very disappointing if the response isn't what you expected, because every event has different response. Like I go to an event in Yuma and I usually sell out. I go to an event in Tempe and I maybe sell half of my stuff. There are other ones where I sell maybe one or two items. It really, really varies. So don't invest more than $100 the first time you're setting up a booth.
Yeah, a couple of comments here. Sakura says Pacific Northwest has the Sakura Rangers too, but they're more of a skit group. Yeah. And then Matt Marvel says, agreed. Thanks for joining in on YouTube, guys.
Yeah. And I think that's a very important thing is like, I feel like also the tabling scene is changing dramatically because before in the day, a lot of cosplayers would just have prints to sell, the occasional sticker or charm. Like that was a very typical, like you'd have the cosplayer and then you'd have your merchandise, which would mostly be prints, mostly be maybe an acrylic charm, maybe a sticker. And so now we're seeing a lot more cosplayers like making things cosplay related to sell, or selling 3D prints or resin casted things, or things that I feel like are like closer to like what they're trying to brand themselves as.
Yeah.
So I feel like there is kind of a shift in boothing because for me, when I first started, I was like prints because like that's the normal thing. You see it like what I grew up with seeing like a lot of cosplayers do, but I honestly have never done very well with prints. My stickers always sell really well.
I think a lot of it, I think social media changed that because initially you only would get glimpses into what cosplayers had on social media. But then after quarantine happened with the pandemic and people got so used to sharing all of their content online, print sales began to dip even more because people had already seen so much of the content or already a part of OnlyFans or Patreons or existing elements that they weren't interested in purchasing the prints anymore. So then cosplayers had to start coming up with other material, right? I mean, Matt Marvel even says it also depends on the con. And
Yeah,
then
and
soccer cosplayers in the Pacific Northwest and Canada area have prints, and that's about it.
Yeah,
So
like that's
it really
our
does depend on region, the convention itself, and then also the prevalence of marketing and social media in those regions as well.
So
Yeah,
Sam,
and
so Sakura, that's actually a good question. So Sam, you said items, but can you explain what some of these items that
Oh,
maybe
of course, yeah.
merchandise.
Because we're from the Pacific Northwest, we're like prints are like our selling point. Like
Yeah,
that's all
no,
we got.
I had to do so. I went through and I did a bunch of research through like Vistaprint and different printing studios, and there's some local people that I use. So if I go to a larger event where I expect people are going to bring money because hey, they spent so much on this ticket, they're coming here to shop and have fun. That's a place where I might print out T-shirts and hats and funny underwear. People freaking love funny underwear. Like they're losing their minds over funny underwear right now. Or socks, something that's a physical item that they can wear. Another thing that people really enjoy is items that they can store stuff in. So like resin boxes or little zipper bags, things that they can clip onto stuff real quickly if they're running out of space. So that's really popular. Stickers are always popular. Kids always want stickers. So anytime I'm selling stickers, I'll have stickers that are like more kid related. And then if I have stuff of my own, I purposely choose costumes that are like more Disney, more family friendly, because my stickers are typically geared towards the younger generation. There's also keychains. Like kids love keychains, but the keychains have to be really sparkly or have something that's very bright or have some kind of cool element to them that really draws you, because keychains are unfortunately like all over in the market. Yeah. And then one thing that's always popular, but I will say is a really serious investment and you'll want to wait a little bit longer, are enamel pins. So people love enamel pins.
Pins and
Button
badges
makers,
are
if
really,
you want
really
to start with
popular
button
again.
makers of your art, right? Instead of having people buy prints of your art or your cosplay, make buttons of different sizes, tiny all the way to large, and then they can wear it on things and they don't have to worry about trying to find wall space or portfolio space to store the prints.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like you make a good point that like the internet has changed a lot of like how we try to market ourselves, because a lot of marketing has changed. Because I would have never thought of buttons or underwear, but
I didn't think about it either. I saw a cosplayer doing it and they were hilarious and people ate them up because it was like a funny phrase with like their like face doing something stupid. It was great.
And I feel like it's also a lot of like, sorry, Jinx, go ahead.
No, but also I think in our region, like you said, that we have a lot more guests, like cosplay guests and people that are tabling. Woo. They're gonna want if there's like 30 cosplay guests all selling prints, you know what I mean? Oh my gosh, sorry. That's why people have been coming up with more things to have at their booths.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, I gotta grab some water. Oh, I'll be right back.
Yeah, so I feel like booth setups have evolved over the years. I personally don't have any banners, but like my partner Sakura has, she has a beautiful banner. Like I usually just mooch off of her table, not gonna lie. But like she has a lot of like what you'll see for a typical professional cosplayer setup. So of course, business cards are my biggest thing. Like I always have nice business cards designed by Thermo, and I had like. She always has a really nice banner. I mean, I shared the picture to you, Thermo. So that the picture I sent you was it's our booth from last Penty that we shared together. I just had prints and stickers because I don't have a whole lot of boothing experience. I do a lot of like workshops and panels, and like I'm always super busy, so sitting in a booth has just never been my style. So I've only ever done it for like Penty because they asked me to, and plus I can do it with Sakura. So like we share a booth. It's very convenient to have a nice place to leave your stuff. But a lot, like it just matters on like how much effort you want to put into it to begin with, and like I don't know, I don't see myself making a banner for myself, but I also focus more on like prints and stickers and like tangible things that people can take off the table, I guess.
Yeah, and that's the
Well,
thing
when
is
Sam
that's what
mentioned,
affects
like-
your booth setup, is figuring out what elements you're going to bring with you will affect how you set up your booth as well. So let me see if I can find like a picture of fast. I'm going to share which one. I have so many photos up right now, so I just got to figure out which one I want to share.
When Sam talks about like investing in, I sorry if you guys mentioned this while
No,
it's gone, but like I really do think at least one kind of marketing tool that's important is like a banner, a pull-up banner, or one that you can put up, you know, on your backdrop. I think that really makes it kind of finishes the look of your booth. You're not just like a table with stuff on it. So I think that's definitely something to invest in if this is something that you want to keep doing, like a one-off. If you're not sure, I understand. It makes sense, but you could also do like a QR code. My pull-up banner has a QR code. So people think that they need to do business card as well. Not necessarily. You can always do something that people scan now. Everyone's always got their smartphones like handy. So that's another way to go as well. Did you guys read these comments? Matt Marvel said,
no, not yet.
Like Level Up Expo in Vegas has so many people in it that are going to spend money and are more adult, whereas like Game On is more local and family oriented. Yes, that is very true.
So deciding where you're going to, what kind of like
what your audience is, definitely. And Sakura says, so in AZ, is guesting just doing a booth like Artist Alley? So it's basically just cosplay alley.
It's a yes and a no for that. Like I think it's yes and no. Yes, it is like cosplay alley, and the cosplayers can sell whatever they want. And they still have to have a tax license and whatever the rules are still apply to them. But they're also usually contractually obligated to either judge a contest or MC something, or at least have 2 panels. So there's other elements associated with it as well. But for the most part, I'd say that 90%, 85 to 90% of their time is managing their booth and interacting with the crowd and getting them hyped up about the different elements of the con.
Interesting, because we don't have a lot of that. Like our culture for guesting is very different, I feel like, up in this area, because we do have like booths and stuff, but I feel like cosplayers don't spend a lot of time at their booths. Like obviously if the like AK Wiru, who's selling books and stuff, and usually he's been chosen to be a judge, and then he does other things. But my experience is I usually have very little time at my booth. That's where you can find me eating lunch. But I'm usually doing panels or doing other things, and I'm helping out like behind the scenes and working on other stuff as a cosplayer, more than sitting at my booth and selling stuff.
Yeah, and that's the difference that like you and Sakura are showing me, because I'm so used to, if I have a booth, I need to spend at minimum 75 to 80% of my time there, unless the con has made an exception because they know I'm helping them with like really long like presentations or events, right? But you are required to be there. And UwuCon, like we even had issues last year with people who were just disappearing from their booth, and we constantly had people coming to us saying, where's this person? I've wanted a signature, I wanted an autograph, I wanted to buy a print for them, I wanted to buy something off their booth. So that's why we always tell them, if you have to leave your booth, most cons will actually give you 1 to 2 extra badges to have a handler always manage your booth for you. So that's another thing too out here, and at a lot of the Southwest cons, they understand that cosplayers do have other obligations. They may not be at their booth the entire time. So they expect you to have some kind of schedule posted saying, this is when I will be at my booth. And then if you're not at your booth, you have to have someone there managing it so that items can be sold, and maybe pre-signed items if you're going to be gone most of the day, stuff like that.
Wow. Yeah, like for example, at Phoenix Fan Fusion this past year, it was actually my very first guesting experience. I've boothed and I've tabled a lot of places, but it was the first time that I actually was a guest, and I was like, wow, blown away. But I also worked events, like I emceed the Masquerade. And because of that, I actually closed my booth down, and I told, the manager, the talent manager, that, hey, I've got so many responsibilities, I can't be at my booth as they expect me to be, right? Because they have asked me to do other things. So I actually had a schedule that I posted on the internet, that I posted at my booth, that's like, hey, this booth is closed from, 1 p.m. onward, go see Jinx at the Masquerade. I wasn't just blowing it off. I had actual other jobs and responsibilities. So as long as I think you keep people informed, especially if they do want to come and see you,
I think that is the biggest difference, is we don't have a difference between a booth and a guest. If you have a booth at a convention, you are usually a guest working at that con. There is no like cosplayer who is just boothing and just being like a guest. Like I guess it's technically still a guest, but like usually if we have a cosplay guest, they're doing the MC and the judging, and like they're very much part of the convention, and they're not just there for themselves selling their stuff. We also have like I said, a smaller pool. Like we usually only have like a couple of guests like that. So that's our table. That's me and Sakura's table. So we have some prints. We ended up working on some decals, and like Sakura's amazing and makes D&D stuff. So if you want D&D stuff, there was some cool rollers and stuff. So Sakura had other things to sell as more of like a side thing, and then I had my prints and stuff. But to be perfectly honest, we were like never at our booth. I think we sat at our booth for like a maximum of an hour on Saturday to eat lunch. just because I had 2 panels to run, and we were helping with the main stage, and we were doing the cosplay judging. So like we just weren't there, but we tried to be there as much as possible. We were constantly working for the con, so we never had the time to do it.
Yeah, and that's fair if you do have responsibilities at the con. But if you don't, and you just want to go and wander around or go do other things, that's a different story. Obviously, if you have responsibilities for a con, the con's going to understand if you're not going to be available at your booth. A couple comments here. Robert says it's all about visual appeal and catching someone's eye. Definitely, that's going to be the first thing, is people are going to see something interesting that's going to draw them over, right? That's kind of just standard marketing. Sakura says that's crazy different from Pacific Northwest and Canada. Matt Marvel says, let's be honest, Vegas expos are like more flair, banners, cards, loot prints, stuff like that. And that's the thing is, again, it's different in different regions. Like in some places, some cons don't even do guests, right? Mm-hmm. And some do only international guests or only local guests. So this is an example of the booth setup that we had at UwuCon. Now, it looks kind of unfinished because at the last minute, they gave us even more space than we had planned for. So we definitely had to like fill out the space, and we did. We ended up having 2 different spaces. It was pretty much like a double-sized booth.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. If you're like, if you've got a whole crew of people, it's a little bit easier to take on a larger booth. Like if it's just you by yourself, I always recommend single table. Don't try to mess with more than one table. If there's 2 of you, maybe you can add a second table because each of you can man a separate table. But if there's like 4 or more people, that's where you can really like do spectacular booth design and setup. So on the right side where you see curtains in the back, those are changing rooms. In the front, we had a repair table. Yeah, they're pipe and drape, just like pipes that you get from the plumbing store, and you hook it all together. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then in front we had a mirror and a bunch of we had some spare makeup stuff. We had spare repair stuff. And then we also had a schedule of this is where we're going to be. This is what cosplay stuff is going on today. Not necessarily at our booth, but cosplay stuff going on today at the event.
And I feel like ours, we were marketed as a lounge more than anything. And so we really encouraged cosplayers to come over and hang out with us and to stay at the booth and to do things, which I feel like is very different than what a typical boothing experience might end up being.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, because on the other side, like you were mentioning, we had another table with a TV that was playing old streams, but in the background, we'd off and on stream live and bring guests on, and they'd sit on a chair or the couch or one of those little hilarious inflatable seats that you had. Yes, they were great. And it was nice because it also gave a lot of people would go over there and just take photos because the lighting was helping them with getting nice photos too. But it was a good gathering space, because that is one thing if you're a cosplayer and you're trying to, since UwuCon is one of those ones that they have more than just cosplay guests at booths, they also have what we call VIP cosplayers, which are wandering cosplayers who walk around and encourage people to come to the cosplay hall to see what exists. So they're kind of like live marketing. And they need to fix the stage.
Yeah, and so I would definitely not aim for something like this as your first couple of boothing experiences. I like the idea of starting small and building your own self and marketing up. The number one advice I'd say to start out is learn about the convention you're going to. If it's a local thing that you're used to going to, then you know the vibe of it. But if you're going to a con that you may have never been to before, or it's a new experience for you, learn a little bit about that con. Learn about the people who go there. Learn about the cosplayers that show up to help give you an idea of what things you feel like you might need for your booth. And then number 2 advice would be, if you need one and you definitely feel like you should have one, find a buddy. Make sure you can get a buddy. And most cons are really cool about if the con, so let's say you are a guest and you have a booth, but you only got one badge, I would reach out to the con and be like, hey, I need a handler because my costumes are too large, or I have anxiety, or most cons will totally give you a second badge. You just have to ask about it. It's honestly something that Penty has done this year. One of our awesome guests asked to have a handler, and we were like, yeah, totally, you can totally have a handler with you. So ask about it, because that is something that I feel like is very much needed when you're a cosplayer.
Lillian says,
I'm sorry, giggling at the
Lillian says, whoa, thermal looks intense, right? You didn't know that was that type of show, did you?
Hey, this is not what you guys think it is.
Are you sure about that, though?
I'm that Jennifer Lawrence meme right now, okay, yeah, whatever. But can you bring up that picture again, Sam?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I accidentally closed it. Hang on.
So another thing that you can do, and this is something that I've done, I've DIY'd this. another way that if you don't really, I mean, you're still going to spend money on some sort of marketing thing, but what you see back there, so this backdrop, it's actually called, in the industry, it's called a step and repeat. And you see these a lot on like red carpets where there'll be like logos of the sponsors or the event. So when the stars go walk by, they, take pictures, and all of these sponsors and whatever are in every single picture on the red carpet. So what I kind of did was I kind of made a double duty thing where we would have it if people wanted to take pictures in front of it. Like when we had that lounge at UbuCon, when we were not streaming, we were only streaming like 1 hour a day. When we were not streaming, we invited people to hang out, do photos. So if they were doing photos in our lounge, our logo would be in all of their photos. So that's one way that you can kind of like capture people's attention. And I made that myself. I did make one before where we had a sponsor. That was at Phoenix Fan Fusion last year. And then I had to make a new one because that sponsor was, we were done with that sponsorship. But it's pretty easy. You can buy this backdrop on Amazon. Usually if you can buy it in a package with a backdrop stand, or you could make your own out of PVC pipe. But they're pretty cheap nowadays. Like these backdrop stands are like 15, 20, 30 bucks. And then I actually printed out, I bought printable vinyl, heat transfer vinyl, and I printed all of our logos out, and then I just heat transferred them on. I ironed them on, iron-ons. And so don't like at me. Some of it is like wobbly because I just kind of like, I was a little bit short on time, but you can't really tell unless you're looking at it. So then everyone that comes and takes a picture here, they'll always see our Cost Talk Live logo. So that's another way that you can do it. You can put in the back if you don't want to get like like a printed sign, because those can get expensive, the printed signs like Sam and I have. Lillian says, "Whoa, I love that my brain went to anime outfit instead of anything else." We're talking about your outfit.
Thank you, Lillian, because it is an anime outfit. It's an anime police officer. It's just it's head to toe stretch vinyl.
Wow. Lillian says you made that backdrop. Looks like one of those $200 pro ones, or even $500. So
yeah.
Overall, it cost me, like when I include like ink and paper and all that stuff, $100. Like that's like, you could go.
I like to remind people that we're cheap.
Yeah. And you're right,
I mean, a lot of the stuff we get is from like thrift stores and dollar stores, and we just spruce it up. A little bit of paint, some decorations, no idea.
And we're cosplayers, so we know how to like found object creation and cheap versions. Like, yeah, I could have gotten a vinyl backdrop, that was an 8x10 for, you're right, $500.
I mean, I think one of my favorite cosplay booths I've ever seen, again at Pentacon, there's Chimera Creations up there, and they made these really wicked backdrops. Like one was just like a stone wall, one was a flower wall, a light up wall that was just like LEDs running through aluminum foil. And some of my favorite pictures come from these backdrop walls. And it was such a fun experience. And like, yes, he was selling himself as a cosplayer, and he had some of his props out, and he was like, "Hi, I'm this and this." But that corner was never boring. There was always people at the backdrops, always taking pictures, always having fun. And it was such a really like interactive experience that I feel like they've gotten a lot of their fans and friends because of this back wall that they had all these cool backdrops with. And honestly, that was like one of the things I remember the most, is just like their backdrop was the coolest thing ever. And I will never forget them because of that.
Now, Sam is showing the NRA, the New Arizona Republic Fallout Group, their booth at the last event we did at Tucson Comic-Con. And there's a lot that goes into a visually appealing booth. As you can see, they have displays for their props, and they have them at different levels. So they have some boxes, or a lot of people use cube organizers because you can customize those. You don't want to just put things on a flat table. You want to kind of create the different levels of interest.
Yeah, let me open up the full, like once they just finished setting it up.
Yeah, because like even our one-person booth, like our booth that me and Sakura shared, we used like the tier, wire, just like wire shelving units basically. And one of them we kept tall and we put a bunch of pictures on, and the other one we had like all of the Sakura's like things like on it in like different tiers and different like eye levels that really like it made it a very eye-catching thing. We also had like our big like in the very middle of the table. We kept it for all of the vinyls and the decals and stuff. So like you could just like flip through the book and talk to us and stuff. And so I think it was a fairly appealing style booth because we were trying to keep it colorful, and like I feel like this year we'll probably up our game a little bit. But.
And that's good. That's another thing. Like you want to think about, like you said, eye catching. You want to think about like readability as they're scanning your booth. You also want to consider how much space you're going to have under the table. So if you're bringing belongings or your cosplayer, you want to change out at some point in the day, make sure you have like a tub or something that you can put all your extra stuff in that remains empty. And it's always meant for just spare things you might bring daily. And then you have the other tub or other storage for whatever like additional prints or inventory that you have.
Yeah. So a key to your booth is like keep things off of it that are not necessary. Water bottles, like snacks. You don't want it to look like it's some sort of hub of where everyone comes together and just like dumps things. That's kind of one of my pet peeves. So I actually create like a little hidden area with my cubes. My cubes, I use the solid ones so you can't see behind them, not the wire ones. So I create these different levels of interest, and then I have designated spots where it's like, okay, put your water bottles here, please, nowhere else, or put whatever it is here. And then under the table, of course, we use the boxes that we brought everything in, sometimes as like other like setups underneath. Or
I mean, we had that huge tub under our table that was like the catch-all. These are ugly. Yeah. Don't see them. Throw them in the box.
Yep. Yeah, that too. Absolutely. So that definitely helps. You need to be prepared, like be planned ahead of time. And I like to also have kits. So I have event go kits, and they're in, I make little Tupperware containers, and in there's like tape, clips,
your go bag's right there in front of your table. You're like little go bin.
Oh no, that was a dollar bin. That's a dollar bin.
Oh, but well, you had the bins kind of look like that though.
Those are bins I bring my stuff in, yeah, and sometimes, and you can see when I ordered that pull-up banner, I didn't realize I made myself bigger than it was normally. I was like, wow, that's huge, but it catches people's attention. So this is like a typical setup that my sister and I do when we do our little craft fair booth setups. It's not as doesn't need to look as polished and professional, because it's more like when we do our cost swaps. People want to come and see all the different cool stuff.
And Sam, I shared the cool light up.
Yeah, it closed on me. I'm trying to get it back.
Okay, no, I just want to share this because it was the coolest thing. And literally all they did is they took a big sheet of the pink styrofoam and then they carved out all of the lines. They lined that, so they painted all the pink styrofoam and then they lined the inside of the carvings that they did with aluminum foil and then put LEDs in. Like, it's freaking genius. I just about lost it. Like, me really and cool. Sakura, I'm glad we got at least one picture in front of the wall. Like, we were so busy all weekend, we barely got any pictures there. But, like, when I saw that wall, I was like, oh, my God, that is absolutely genius. And so I got to say, like, props to them. Background wall was so freaking cool.
Now, again, this is a DIY, too. I mean, it looks complicated, but...
Probably took them maybe $50, and that's because LEDs are somewhat expensive. Like,
yeah, the LEDs are going to be more on the expensive side, but those are just like foam panels, right?
Yeah, just like the pink like styrofoam stuff they use for building. Like, they just took a couple of sheets of that, and then carved it out with the Dremel, and then put the LEDs in. And these LEDs actually changed colors, so cosplayers could choose what background colors that they wanted. So like to blue, but like there was a lot of Genshin there, so people would pick their element color, and just it was. Nice. Yeah, it was incredible. And it was such a small thing that everybody, like, everybody loved it. Like, there was never a point in the day that somebody wasn't over at the wall. Like, it was constantly busy and everyone loved it. So, like, if you want to try to up your booth and like do something a little more different or drastic, backgrounds, like picture backgrounds are so much fun. And you're going to create more cosplayers coming over just to talk to you. Like,
yeah, absolutely. That's a great idea. But do you have a picture of my Phoenix Fan Fusion booth? I can find it.
You don't have a full picture. You only have little clips. I'm not finding anything that's a full picture posted.
Yeah,
I think I probably have it on my desktop. Let me look. You guys keep going.
Yeah. So when we were talking about backdrops, I was going to share Uwu's backdrop too of the cute little slime, just to show people like how.
One of my favorite pictures is the picture with the slime.
Oh, so I love it. That's such a cute picture. I love it. It's so
Yeah, and like
sad.
they probably printed this, but it basically looks just like ours, and we just used iron-ons. So like you don't have to go big or go home. You can make
No, you
your
can
own.
absolutely make this. Yeah, and
I
you
mean,
can
but of
even get a
course,
sheet of vinyl if you want to, because like the reason that Jess's looks a little bit off step, and I bet it's just because like it's cotton, it shifts, stuff moves. If you get a big sheet of vinyl, and you can get it for really cheap at like wholesalers, you can get white vinyl and you can just heat press it, and then it'll stay flat like a rug does on the floor, and you can iron heat transfer vinyl onto vinyl because they self-adhere to one another. And then you get like that really nice kind of matte look, but just understand it's going to increase your travel weight because vinyl's considerably heavier than cotton. So yeah.
yes.
And it also
That
changes how you store it because vinyl can only be stored rolled.
I would definitely go with the fabric though, because I also have a
Yep.
travel steamer, this amazing travel steamer. And, as long as we can get power somewhere, it steams out the wrinkles really quick. It's a
Right.
lightweight backdrop. So often what I do with a lightweight backdrop is I'll use clips on the sides of the backdrop stand to make it taut or to make it stay in one place. I do have a picture. I do have one picture of my booth that looks kind of decent. Let's see. So this was again, like I was kind of nervous because it was the first time that only I was the guest, and I really wanted Cost Talk to be the guest, but it was just me. So here you can kind of see I've got different levels of interest. Back here, I put those are those cube organizers, and I had this back here for some of the prints. I put my pull-up banner, and with some events spaces, they are very strict about where you place your stuff. So I couldn't put anything in front of this booth. And then on the side here, I was at the end, but then there was also Wild Bill Soda, which was cool because a lot of people would come and hang out, like and look and stuff. But it did limit my space a lot. So we pushed my table out, and so my sister and I make jewelry. I mean, we're crafty people, right? So I wanted something that would interest people to come over, other than just prints. Like I don't believe people would want to buy prints of me. I still find it hard to believe. So I did want to have some other stuff on the table that would draw people in. It's so funny. I'm doing like the same arm pose here. But if you see that I didn't have this banner, it would be pretty like bare. It's just a black space back there. And in front of my table, I do have another banner that's there. And let me see what else I could find.
And you can do little, like I try to take inspiration from artists' booths as well, especially if you have like
Oh,
art
yeah.
or something. Because my friend Adorable Potato, go check them out, they're amazing. Her booths are always so A++. Oh, by the way, she's also going to be at UwuCon, so all you Southern people get to meet her. She got. I'm really excited to see her booth there. But like she always does, like she gets those like dollar store flowers and shit, like just to like decorate her booth. And her booth is always like really pastel-y and like really pretty and cute and like white. And so like if you're trying to think of something to like stand out, I would say like dollar store tea lights, flowers. Like for me, clouds are kind of my theme. So like I've been trying to think of like what to add, but I'm like, I might just do like cotton puffs. I'll make little clouds for my table. Like
Good
doing
idea.
stuff that like kind of plays with your brand. If you're a Twitch streamer, look at your color scheme for your Twitch background and see what you can like add into your own booth set. So it's like coming from your Twitch screen to being in person. If you have any like icons or adorable characters that represent you, or like a doodle of who you are, like that's what my sticker is. A lot of people are like, oh my God, your sticker's so cute. I'm like, oh, well, my friend designed it for me. And that puppy that I have is actually like my character, like my symbol that I use for everything. It's what I found.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have Amiko, and like everyone just loves Amiko. Like, who cares about me? Nobody wants my prints, but like everybody loves Amiko. So I
You
just
make a good point though, Chibi,
Everybody
is
loves
talking
it.
about like when you do set up a booth. One thing I want all of you to consider if you're setting up a booth, how frequently are you boothing? How frequently are you doing this? If you're only going to do this once a year, don't invest. Again, don't invest too. Oh God, that's me. You see me peering out, creepily smiling in that photo. Okay. Anyways,
and then here I am. I'm creepy too.
yeah, we're both being creepy. Don't spend too much money. Again, stick to dollar stores and consignment stores and thrift stores, and stick to like just cheap PVC. and make sure that you have indoor storage, because I know a lot of people will take and store a lot of their booth setup stuff in like a shed outside. If you're in any area that's exposed to like a lot of wet elements or very, very hot, that could damage. Like you can get mold and wet elements, and mold is fast growing, as everybody knows. It likes to go wee and just take over things. And with Arizona, with our PVC, we usually have to find ways to store it inside or in a place that's going to be mostly temperature controlled, because PVC will melt.
Mhm. Well, and the nice thing about PVC is that it can be broken down, right? It's easier to store than some other kinds of backdrop stands. However, obviously, it does take time to set
Oh, we
up
haven't
when you actually
mentioned
have to build
also
it.
ask to the convention where you're going, are they giving you a table or do you need to bring a table? Because not every convention actually provides a table and chairs. Some of the smaller events where they're not charging you for having a booth, you may be responsible for your own dress linens, table, and chairs.
I can't remember what I was going to say about this, but here it is. This is
It's like-
like what my main booth looked like.
See what things you need. See if power is available. If you're
Power,
willing to
yeah.
spend money on it, because I know most cons charge for power when you're in a space like that. So double check if you have power or need power. And then the third thing is always double check when your check-in time is. If you have a big booth, are you setting up the night before? Are you coming in very early that morning to make sure you have everything set up? Do you need to be there before the venue is open? Like that's another like fine print. If you're basically contracted to this convention to booth, what are the guidelines? How often do you have to be at your booth? What time do you need to be there? What time do you have to set up and break down? Because I've been to events where I've worked where we have the day before and the day after to set up and break down, or I've had events where we have to break down that night. Like the ending ceremony happens and then you break down. Like you just run to your
That's
booth.
most of the events in Arizona. There's not a single one that I know of that lets you clear down the next day. Everything is
so it's like you run to your booth and you just try to manage as quickly as possible. How quick can you break down your booth? So these are just things that you probably didn't think about if you're new to boothing that are important. And if you don't know the answer to these questions, reaching out to the person that you are in contact with, whether that's the panelist, the merchandiser, guest, the cosplayer, coordinator, whoever you are that's contacting you about your information, just reach out and ask them.
Yeah. Sakura says, question, are cosplay guests in AZ required to pay to be a guest?
No, if you're invited as a guest, I'm speaking of booth design in general. If you're invited as a guest, you're not required. You're typically not required to pay. You are required to pay the local taxes. And I will state in the US, there is the state tax that you have to send a temporary license to, and then also each of the cities has their own temporary tax license. So you're gonna get 2 tax licenses to make sure that you can work in those unique areas. It's freaking annoying. So usually it's easier to set up like an LLC or some kind of smaller business company that you can just operate through for the rest of the year and only pay like $50 a year for.
Well, and also,
that's like it matters how much money you're putting into it, what kind of guest you are. Because I know in Washington State, if I just show up as a guest, I don't have to do anything. Like I just sign the contract with the con. Whatever I sell has to be my merchandise that I'm working on. But as long as I don't make over a certain amount of money, I don't need any I don't pay any taxes and I don't have to worry about any of that. So I feel like that's a regional question. Like wherever you're at, know what
make sure you check the tax laws.
Yeah. Make sure you know what you're doing.
Yeah,
there is a difference between.
Go ahead, Jess. Sorry.
There's a difference between cosplayers who are artists that do purchase an artist alley table, because there are a lot of cosplayers that also sell art. So, and they will cosplay at their tables. So that's maybe that's where it needs to be defined. But if you're invited as a guest, then you don't need to pay.
No, the only thing you have to check are the you would have to pay for your own electricity. They still don't usually provide guests with electricity. And that's just because Arizona has their grid in general has issues. So everybody gets charged. Everyone.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty typical for us too. Is even if you're an artist in Artist Alley.
Yeah. And I will say that again, the tax rules. I will note that if you plan on for most conventions, if you plan on submitting 50% or more of your proceeds to charity, most cities will not require you to have a temporary tax license because they're considering it a charitable contribution.
And it also matters on how much money you make, because if you make under a certain amount, then really and truly no.
It used to, not in Arizona. You have to, no matter the amount now, you have to have the tax license.
Wow. Okay.
At least for the city, not necessarily for the federal, but you do have to have for the city.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's what I mean. These are the type of conversations that you need to have and double check.
So a couple more comments. Oh, Ryan says he's late. Thanks for tuning in, Ryan. So a couple more things about when you prepare for your booth setup. I like to be prepared, like over prepared. So when I say that I have this go box, I have things in there that we may need, like
She has
a
like
couple other
crackers
things.
in there, and she has like wipe
I always
away.
have snacks, and I
Yeah.
have like cleaning wipes, hand sanitizer, band-aids, rubber bands,
You
bobby
had
pins.
clear straps for bras in there.
I did.
We're
I had
the con parents. Like, I'm the same as Jinx. Like, no matter where I'm going and what I'm boothing, I have my emergency kit with me, which is for both people and cosplay. So, like, I have Band-Aids, I have snacks, I have a hot glue gun, like, those little things that you need just in case of emergencies. So, like, yes, I'm just like Jinx. No matter where you go, if you see me, you can ask, because I have things.
Now, a couple other things that are great for your booth are clamps. So if you have any big clamps, gaffer's tape is amazing. Gaffer's tape, or sometimes I have the Gorilla tape that holds everything. Zip ties are always helpful, and S hooks. S hooks in different sizes are great to have in your event kit. Of course, you definitely want scissors if they're allowed in your event, and then Sharpies. Sharpies. How many times I've
Sharpies and
needed
dry erase markers,
At least
man.
3
Like,
colors.
and the
You want
Sharpies, you
black,
typically
silver,
actually
and
want the
whatever color you want.
metallic ones, because most of the
Yes.
ones you want the metallic Sharpies.
But a big black one.
Yeah.
A big black Sharpie is also helpful as well. And another thing that I almost cannot live without when I booth is a wagon, a collapsible wagon. And I have this ginormous one that I can fit almost everything in it. And of course, it collapses down. I've seen some people who like booth, they're starting to booth and they're like carrying all these different boxes and things. It's like, don't overwork yourself. Just get the wagon. It's a good investment overall for whatever you do in your life.
See, I don't have a wagon, but mostly I have 1 5-gallon bin and a mannequin. So it's one trip. Like, if you think it's going to be one trip and you don't want to invest in a wagon, you're probably okay. But if it's going to be more than one trip, get the wagon.
We're the in-betweeners. Me and Sakura have like we call it our con roller, and like the con roller is big enough to have like couple lunch pails, our backpacks, like emergency stuff, but we've also used it to carry our important things that we need for that. So like I'm a big believer in the rollers now. Like if you have a cart or a wagon or a roller to help you with this thing, it's worth it.
Yes, absolutely. So anything that you can put everything into one case. Like when we did the Cost Talk booth at Uwu, and I don't like to bring this at every event, but like Uwu definitely, because we've got a lot of stuff. I actually got a giant, what is the brand of that? It's a giant rolling like tote, and usually I can lock it. So anything that we need to keep safe, overnight, we can lock it in there, and we can roll it. The only problem is that it gets really big and heavy to pick it up, but for bigger events, I bring that big giant thing, have all our equipment in it, and anything that we need to lock up, like laptops. Like every time Cost Talk booths, usually I bring my laptop and a TV, because as a talk show, we don't really have like that much to give away, but we have our show to share. So oftentimes I have, electronics that I either take with me every night or I can lock it in. Also, you can lock suitcases as well. You can use giant suitcases if you don't want to use wagons.
Like that's not a bad idea, because if you're handling money, you should always have a lockbox. Even just a small cheap lockbox that you can take with you to and from your house or your hotel. Conventions, as much as you'd like to hope that they're a safe venue, don't assume it is. Always make sure you have stuff. Unfortunately, even big events like SoccerCon last year, there was some thieves and people lost money, and it's really scary and sad. So like, always make sure if you have laptops, flash drives, anything that is money related, like you want to have a safe spot that you can keep an eye on it, or your booth helper can keep an eye on it, that you only have access to, or your booth people have access to.
Yep, absolutely. And usually, overall, they'll have security, but always remember that, you need to be responsible first and foremost for yourself and for your own merchandise and your own booth. That's why it does help if you can bring in a couple more bodies. Especially if you need to take breaks. I've now been like, if I'm asked to booth or Cost Talk Live is asked to booth, I'm like, listen, I need a minimum of these badges, because it gets exhausting to be at a booth all day. Again, like Chibi, you said that you guys weren't at your booth very often, but here in Arizona, they expect you to be there, like especially if they're giving you a booth for free, right? Because you get this for free, and then you give us content and program, whatever. You add value to our event. So I've started to be like, I need like staff, I need break people, whatever. And if they don't want to give it, then I'm like, okay, well, maybe, this isn't an event for us. But never hurts to ask, right? You can always put that in your negotiations. I think people get so excited to like be invited or guesting that they kind of just, take whatever they're given, but
They'll agree
ask.
to everything. But yeah, you can always ask.
Like you never know what you'll get if you don't ask for it. So ask for all the things that you need and then negotiate from there.
No, it's very normal for cosplayers to need a handler, and I feel like that is becoming the norm, that even like solo cosplayers are being offered 2 badges just because they know it's like if you're a big cosplayer that does like big craftsmanship, and that's like why you're being guested, is like usually you can't even use the bathroom on your own. So like totally get a handler, have a couple buddies, especially for the bigger booths. I think it's just like mandatory now. Like you have to be able to go use the bathroom and just have a buddy.
Oh yeah. And it's hard if you ask like your booth like neighbors, because they might not have like. So when I was boothing at Phoenix, Rainweaver was my neighbor, and he only had 1 helper. So often I had a lot of helpers. So I also offered my helpers to help him.
Yeah, and we would do food runs to a lot of the larger cons when they invite cosplay guests. They actually have food for you at certain times in the day, and if like it's one thing that you'll want to ask too. That's one thing you want to consider, the length of time you're supposed to be at your booth. And if you don't have a handler, some of the convention will send staff to you with food and water. Ask them what those processes are, so that way you can also prepare, especially if you have like food allergies or something, that you can bring your food in before the convention starts, because a lot of the time most security won't let you bring food in anymore. There's been so many issues with people tampering stuff or doing things and bringing in alcohol illegally or drugs and finding ways to hide it through food, that they're very particular. Unless you have some kind of doctor's note, they're not going to let you bring your food in. And so if you're a guest, make sure you communicate that with the con very clearly, so that they know how long you need to be at your booth, or if you have to be away for extended period of time, so you can go back to your hotel and get your food or whatever the requirement is.
And that's another thing, is plan out your schedule. When we booth, like in the very beginning, I would forget about lunch, right? Because we're so busy. And when I talk about boothing, it started out with my sister and I. Yeah, it started with my sister and I doing craft fairs. And by the time we were like done setting up, we're like, oh my God. And then lunch rolls around, and the lines get so long that when it's just me and my sister, it's like, okay, well, one has to go and get the food and the other one has to wait. So look at the schedules of when food is being served, or when you can get away. Sometimes we have to plan it early. Like, okay, so let's go at 11 to avoid the lines. I mean, we'll have to eat a little early, but that's just how it is. So be sure to think of that as well, like schedules.
And yeah, like even if you're guesting, knowing how much time that you are obligated to, also remind yourself that like you're allowed to take breaks. Like if you need to go and eat lunch, or like a lot of cons nowadays do have quiet rooms or staff rooms that are specifically just for like guests or staff people to go sit and chill in. Like ask if your con has one of these, ask if you have access to it, because if you get easily overwhelmed, maybe going and having lunch in a quiet room would help you recharge, so you can go out and be yourself again. And I think this is super freaking important. I feel like when you own your own business or you're running your own content, you tend to like neglect your needs in your water and your food and stuff, because you're like, I want to work and I want to get as like I myself, I have to do everything myself, but it will hurt in the end. So like make sure you're putting in time to take a break, use the bathroom, get some food, chill for yourself, so you can actually recharge.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Always your self-care first.
So we're in the last about 2 minutes of the show. If you guys have any questions, please reach out to us and ask them what they're going to be. Any last minute topics before we talk about what's coming up?
I think just when you're boothing, just be prepared. If things go wrong, if sizes of your booth are different, if you've got neighbors that might be very loud. Like when we did Game On last year, we were right by the stage, So there's these things that you just need to be aware of if you don't get any walkthroughs. Not a lot of events will let you do walkthroughs. Usually it's just set up and that's it. So just be aware of that not everything is in your control, and just try to manage what you can control.
Yeah, ask a lot of questions.
Ask a lot.
Communication is key.
Yes.
So next week we're going to be streaming on Saturday because I'll be at Salt Lake, and I'll just be walking around telling you guys about everything. You can ask me questions. I'm gonna be with Thermo Sidekick, and so we're traveling to the mystical land of Utah, which I've never been to.
Mystical
I'm
land
going
of
to a new convention
Utah.
center. I'm getting there a day early so that I can learn the whole lay of the land. I've been looking at maps. Oh my gosh, so many maps. That's what we'll be doing. So it'll be 12 p.m. next Saturday, live from Salt Lake FanX. And then the following week, we will be streaming on Wednesday at 7 p.m. And we'll be talking about the difference between like a skit and a walk-on, and how you can choreograph both of them, and what you can consider when you're going across the stage. So we'll talk about that following that. Again, you can reach us at Costalk. Oh gosh, my brain's dead. Costalk.
Costalk-live.com.
Yeah, still my brain's sorry.
Dash-
Costalk-live.com, and there's all of our links on there. Most of it's updated. I think there's a few more things that I need to go in there and change, but we're pretty close to being up to date. We will be streaming
all of our socials. All of our socials
yeah.
are just Cost Talk Live. No doubt. No.
And we
dash
will be
live.
rotating streaming between mostly Sundays and Wednesdays. There might be an occasional Saturday thrown in there if there's an event that, like, the reason we're doing it Salt Lake on FanX on Saturdays because they don't actually run Sunday. Like, apparently all of Utah is closed on Sunday, so it's one of those things that like they shut down very much for like
Mormons.
Yeah. Yep. And then we wanted to inform all of you guys in advance, just to keep you aware, that our last stream of the year will be December 10th. And then we're going to take a break until the new year. And this will give us time to schedule out new streams for the following new year, kind of come up with what events we can all attend, and create more content for you. So there will be about a 2 or 3 week break before we start streaming again in 2024.
Yeah. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Like, I know we're changing our schedule. We got a great audience on Wednesday. And
They were
really like
hyper on Wednesday.
Yeah. Just keep an eye on our schedule. You know, it's like if you want to see what we've got.
Everything is scheduled out until December 10th. You can find it on Facebook if you go into the live section of our page, or you can go onto YouTube and go to the live section and see everything that's scheduled out. Facebook also has it on the events section. It might actually be easier to set an alarm if you go on Facebook to the events section. And if you want alerts on YouTube, you got to subscribe and hit the notification bell.
And like a heads up,
wherever that is.
And a heads up, October is a very busy month for all of us.
Yes.
There's a lot of things going on and a lot of events. So stay tuned because we're probably going to have a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
Joey says December 10th is your birthday. My birthday's December 4th.
Woo!
Wait, that's 8. That's 4. December 4th.
I'm so lonely in January. Lonely.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, I'm Jinx Cosplay, Chibi Raincloud, Thermo Cosplay. And see us next time on Wednesday, 7 p.m. And yeah, have a good rest of your week. Thanks, everybody. Bye.